On task 13, I'm going to show you guys how to use blending modes. And as the description says, it basically changes the way layers react with each other. So working with blending modes is experimental because you never really know what you're going to get. Because each image is different and they have different values and colors and they kind of react with each other differently. But here I have a Google document attached, and it'll kind of give you an idea of what the blending modes do, but like I said, it is kind of experimental. So blending modes are located up here on your layers panel because it is working with your layers, and it's right next to the opacity option. And when you click on that, you'll see there's a bunch of different options. And here near the bottom, it has a breakdown of results that is supposed to happen, basically. But like I said, depending on the images that you're working with, it might not necessarily look the same if you do the same blending mode with two other pictures. So, all right. So what you want to do is you want to start with the butterfly image. And then I'm going to go and download the rough texture image. All right, so I'm going to click and drag and drop it onto the butterfly. So anytime you drag an image on top of an already existing image on Photoshop, it has kind of transform mode. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to go ahead and rasterize it. So you may or may not have this little smart object icon. If you ever have this, it's always a good idea to right-click and rasterize the layer, so that way you don't have any editing problems. Okay, so I have these two images. You want to make sure that the rough texture is on top and the butterfly is on the bottom. So blending modes are located right here on your toolbar, right next to opacity. And here are all those options I was talking about. So here we have darken, and you can see that any of these that I click has a different effect. However, there are certain effects that I use most, and those are multiply. So right up here in the darken category. So multiply is always a nice one, and if you feel like your image is too dark, you could always take the opacity down on your image, so that way it's not as obtrusive on the values. All right, another nice one is overlay. Let me go ahead and take the opacity up, and this one also works well. So overlay, multiply, soft light also works well. So these two in multiply I use the most. Sometimes lighten and screen work well, but it depends on the image. So another thing is, so if you want to take a look at lighten right here, I'm going to go ahead and unlock my background and kind of show you the difference of when you switch the order. So I'm going to change this to normal, and then I'm going to change this to lighten. So it kind of, depending on the images that you're working with, it could change up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back to lighten. Actually, let's do multiply. You could actually choose any of the ones that you like best. And I'm going to leave it at overlay. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to save this to my U drive because I want to upload this to Classroom. All right, so you want to upload a version of the butterfly with a rough texture. You can choose any of these that you like the best to upload. So whatever you like best, that's the one you want to upload. So these always have really cool effects. Hue's also a nice one. All right. Next, I'm going to go ahead and delete that rough texture one. So make sure you save. So I'm going to drag my rough texture down to my trash can. Now I'm going to drag over on top of the butterfly this bokeh lights. And anytime you want to try to find this effect where you have the blurry lights, it's called bokeh. So I'm going to download and drag and drop it. All right, I'm going to hit enter because it's in transform mode. I'm going to rasterize my image. So I have that little icon. And I'm going to go ahead and explore with my blending mode. So you can see here, has a different effect. So for example, lighten is a little bit different than the last one. So you can choose the one you like best. I always like overlay or soft light. You want to file, save as, save it to your U drive, and upload this to Classroom as well. Alright, I'm done with the butterfly, so you should have a total of 2 images to turn into Classroom so far with the butterfly image. Next is you're going to utilize your layer masks again, because those are very, very important. So for the second part of this task, you want to download the Reaching image. Drag and drop into Classroom. Make sure you have nothing open when you do this. And then I'm going to go ahead and download the space image. Alright, so the goal of this is I need to first, when I drag this over, you can see that it doesn't fit. Luckily, when you drag it over, it's in transform mode. I'm going to go ahead and make it to the right size. Hit enter. And I'm actually, before I move on, I'm going to temporarily, first I got to rasterize. I'm going to temporarily turn off this layer because I want to select this purple background. So I'm going to select my background. I'm going to go ahead and grab my magic wand tool. And I'm actually going to turn the tolerance down a little bit to 25. Alright, so I want to get this whole purple background selected. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click around until I get all of this background. So Control plus to zoom in. Make sure you get in between of her fingers well. If you ever, so a nice trick is Shift adds to your selection. If you ever click on an area, such as, say if you accidentally do this, you could always hold down Alt, and Alt subtracts from your selection. So Shift. Make sure you have contiguous and anti-alias checked so this works properly. I have that little part here, so Alt, Shift. Alright, looks pretty good. Alright, so it looks like I have background selected. And I'm going to turn on the space image. Make sure the space image is selected because based on that background selection that I made, I want to apply a layer mask to my space image. So I'm going to hit my layer mask button. And right now this looks really very cut and paste, very photoshopped. So I'm going to apply a blending mode to it. You can try overlay, which I think looks good. And what it really does is it kind of softens up the image a little bit. It brings back these shadows that she was casting on the wall. And you can choose between any of these that you think looks, I guess, the coolest. So I think I like overlay. You could always kind of tone down your opacity if you want, if you feel like it's too strong. But you really want to see these dark values that she's casting on the shadow in the original image because it makes it look more believable. You can always update your layer mask. So if there's parts of the image where, say, part of it, like maybe here, I could go in and could always add to your selection. In my case, you want to make sure you don't want any of the stars on her. So layer masks are always editable. So you could always update them, which is really great. So once you're done with this, you want to save this to your U drive and upload it to Classroom.